Troops, here we are, another Eagle podcast, another fantastic guest, coming all the way from the Greedy Gringo. Kyle, how are you doing? Thanks for coming on the show.
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, how are you?
I'm very good.
Good.
The power of social media has brought us together. And a friend of yours and a guest that I had on the podcast told me about you, and I sort of went and did a little bit of research. What is the Greedy Gringo, and how did it become a thing?
Is that a question?
That's the first question.
Right, okay. So how did it become a thing? It's a really long story. How long have you got?
Go for it. We've got 45 minutes.
Right. So I used to be, well, I still am a chartered accountant, but I used to work in like big businesses. So I used to work, the last job I had was at the head office of Morrison's supermarket.
Right.
And since university, I got a degree. I'll go back to uni. So I got a degree in marketing.
Yeah.
Then I got a job working for Marks and Spencer's head office.
Yeah.
Doing well, what did I do? Oh, this is terrible. Hang on. I'll start again.
Go for it.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. This is it.
So going back to university, I got a degree in marketing. Then I worked for a company that was sort of part of Hallmark Cards and also part of Marks and Spencer's, and they trained me as an accountant. Then I worked for the head office of a bank or a building society, actually. Then I worked at Morrison's head office. Anyway, I just decided that the corporate world wasn't for me. I was like, I just didn't like. I don't. It's not that I would say I hate accounting. Like everybody always says to me, "Oh God, yeah. Oh, it's because you were an accountant. Yeah, that must be so boring." I don't think that was the most boring bit. I think it was the like going to work, sitting at the same desk, 9 to 5, every single day. You know, like once I remember I went to work, I parked in the car park. A woman pulled up behind me, and when I got out, she told me off for parking in her space. I think that was the limit for me. I was like, oh my God. I was like, because I would just park anywhere. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just there's definitely no spaces. But people are like little ants, like robots, and I just couldn't do with it. And I was like, is this what life is? Like you just come and sit at a desk for 8 hours a day, and then you go home and you feel like you're doing absolutely sort of nothing. I know you could be very busy during your day and do lots of things, but like, what are you actually achieving with your life? So one day I decided the only I could basically change it. You know, nobody was going to come in and say to me, "Oh, do you want a new job that you find really interesting, or do you want a cool life where you get to go traveling around the world?" I was the only person that was going to do that. Yeah. So I called an estate agent and I said, "Please, can you sell my house?" And he said, "Oh, come and see," because I thought that's the only way I'm going to get a lot of money to be able to go traveling around the world for a long time.
Yeah.
So I decided to sell my house to release equity. I got an estate agent. He said, "Oh, I'm passing there this evening. I'll come round." He valued it. 3 days later, it was on the market, and then in 2 days, it sold.
Oh wow! You must have had a
actually happening. So I sold my house and everything I owned. Like anybody that knows me on Facebook that listens to this will remember. Like I created an album on Facebook called "For Sale" because I couldn't be bothered posting things on eBay. And I just like did my own little marketplace on Facebook and like just shared it, and all my friends shared it, and I sold like everything I owned, like my car, my furniture. Like the girl that bought my house bought like a vast amount of the furniture. Like I literally had nothing left, like just some clothes and like. Do you think
if you hadn't sold your house so quickly and maybe it had gone on for a few months, you might have changed? You know, that the fact that it just sort of happened sort of forced your hand. Do you know what I mean? Do you think if it had gone on? Yeah.
I don't think it would have changed my mind, no, because like the actual legal process of selling the house took over 3 months, which I know is quite normal, but we had a few hiccups and stuff with surveys. So the actual process took a long time. Do you know what I mean? Like it was, when I say it sold in 3 days, I just mean I got an offer in 3 days and I accepted. The whole thing took a long time, but I was so determined. It's like I was sat at my desk that day and I was like, I don't know what to do with life. I felt very like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I can't just have this life sitting at a desk thing. I just can't do it. And it was like a moment in my head where I was like, this is what I need to do. It wasn't like, oh, I want to do it to be reckless or I want to. go traveling or I want to do this. It was like, this is what I need to do at this point in my life. It's like, I need to start again. I need to sell everything I have and start afresh. So I sold that house, but then I released a lot of equity for it. So then I went and bought another house, and I got the keys to it 6 weeks before I was due to fly.
Cool.
And it was an absolute wreck. Like the oven had a cat bed with cat shit in it in the oven.
Oh wow, you bought it.
There was like no oven door. It was stank of like cigarettes and piss and stuff. It was awful. So in 6 weeks, I completely renovated another house, which I then rented out.
Right. Wow.
I still have that house now, and it's in Leeds, and I rent that out.
Yeah.
And then I got on a plane to Mexico just with a one-way flight, and that was it. And I went to Mexico and was like, I'm going to just set off traveling and see where I end up.
Where in Mexico did you go? Because I've done a few places in Mexico, and one of them wasn't touristy at all. One of them was like proper real life gangland Mexico, and it was pretty scary at the time, but I just rolled with it. And I definitely was the only gringo in town as well. Like that was the dance. Do you know what I mean? I stuck out like a sore thumb. I remember thinking, to blend in, I'm going to wear a Barcelona shirt. Who knows why? Who knows why? But these are the things. I went to a place called Chatham Mall. It's just across the border with Belize. And it was an experience. It really was an experience. And I wish I'd learned a tiny bit of Spanish, Espanol, because I was just flat on my feet. You know what I mean? Like no one, and I mean no one, spoke a word of the Queen's, and I was like, this is going to be the first time I've ever been anywhere where no one spoke any English at all. And you know, you have that moment where you feel like, I feel dead embarrassed.
Yeah.
You know, just pointing loudly and pointing at things.
Yeah.
Go on. Yeah. Where did you go in Mexico?
Fun, though. In Mexico, I just flew to Cancun.
Yeah.
Because it's like a good way to get to Central America. I didn't really see any of Mexico. I was starting out. I stayed in Mexico, just in Cancun for a couple of days, and then I was going to Belize. And I got a tiny little aeroplane with like 6 seats and flew to Belize. And I lived there for 2 months doing some volunteering, teaching a charity in the Caribbean how to do accounting, basically.
Do you know what? It's funny because I was based in Belize. I was based I was based in St. George's Key. I was I lived on the Keys. St. George's was like the third island along. So you had like San Pedro, Key Corker, and then there was St. George's Key. And our main base was obviously at the airport camp, and I lived in Belize for 6 months. What a place! Let's talk Belize. Let's talk seaweed. Did you ever have any? Did you ever have any seaweed?
No, I didn't. No.
Oh, what? You're missing out.
I did that. I had lots of. I had lots of. What did they always make me?
Chicken and rice.
They would always make me ceviche out of those conch. Things, those like sea snail things.
Yeah.
Which used to freak me out. It was like so tasty and nice, but also I would hate seeing them. Because I have a weird thing about snails. Like that's what I'm scared of.
Where were you in Belize?
Don't know why I'm scared of snails.
Well,
I lived in a little village called Sartaneja, which was like really far north, like relatively close to the Mexico border.
Oh, right, okay.
It's like a tiny little village, and it was like 3 hours from any other town in any direction.
Wow.
You could get a boat to one of the big, like the main island. What's the main island, the touristy island called?
San Pedro.
Yeah, you could get a boat there called the Thunderbolt boat, and the boat itself took like an hour and a half, even though it was a speedboat, because it was like that far away.
Yeah. Did you ever get down into Belize City?
Yeah, only a couple of times. I went there on a bus.
The buses are funny.
Yeah, the bus was nuts. Like the bus took like, sorry, I just swore. The bus took like.
No, don't worry about it.
I think it took like 3.5 hours, and it's like not even that far. Like Belize isn't a big country, but the roads are so absolutely wrecked.
Yeah,
like to do like 100-mile journey would take like 4 hours or something.
On Belize, like it is an amazing place, and they had a saying. They used to say, "Right now," which doesn't actually mean right now. It means any time between now and the next day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember sort of like I had a few sort of local Belizean guys who used to sort of work for me, and I'd say to them, "Have you done that job?" And they go, "Right now." And I'm like, "Is that a yes or a no?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, right now." I'm like, "Right." And then like later on, they still hadn't done it, and I was like, "What's happening with this job?" "Oh, right now." And I was like, "This right now things we need to clarify a time scale because I'm not getting it." But yeah, you're right about the buses.
Yeah.
I took one to the zoo in Belize, from Belize City to the zoo, and it felt like I was on there for like 10 hours, and it was something like 35 miles away or something. I was like,
yeah,
how is this even a thing?
no, it was just nuts. I was like, I'm sure I could have walked this quicker.
Yeah.
There was like so many potholes, like it was just, oh god, it was crazy. I couldn't get around it. It took ever. So I would always often be trapped in this little village I lived in because like it wasn't worth leaving it for the weekend because you'd spend all of Friday like night traveling somewhere. Then you'd have to spend all of Sunday, and the buses were like really irregular. Like there was like one bus left at 8 a.m. every day.
Yeah.
Bus like a rat came at like 10 p.m. every day. It was so bad. So I was just trapped in this little village, and I lived with this little family. And the wife was from El Salvador, I think. Or
yeah, I was going to sort of say, so the further you get away from the coast, the more the sort of indigenous population is more sort of what you think Central American wise, isn't it? And the people who live on the coast are more Afro-Caribbean, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, yeah. And also like the English, you know, like Belize speaks English, doesn't it? But for where I was, it was so close to Mexico, like the first language really was Spanish. Yeah, Spanish. But most people understood and spoke English.
Yeah.
You know, so they would speak to me in English, but between each other, they'd speak Spanish.
And they also have their own sort of dialect, don't they? Corazol. The Belizean people spoke like again a dialect of almost, and I never ever really got the lingo of it, but it's a dead fascinating sort of place because obviously from the good old colonial days, obviously we went there and took the coast and town, and Belize itself has very sort of old-fashioned, picturesque British style houses. Do you know what I mean? Very, very flash. There was, I think I'm right in saying this, but they made a movie there featuring Chuck Norris as well. I can't think it'll come to me the name, but no, Belize is a great place. Absolutely everything is imported, though, isn't it? They don't. I remember the prices in the supermarkets were just sky high, and talk about a place that
it's so expensive for like imported things, like, and then also like they don't have any foreign beer, do they? They have, what was it called, Bellican?
Bellican, yeah, Bellican.
Because the Bellican company, like, it's like kind of has a monopoly, and it controls all of like the imports with the government. It bribes the government to have really high tariffs on import. So like all you can ever get your hands on is Bellican.
Yeah,
crazy.
We used to, obviously, being a part of the army and stuff, we used to have our own booze sort of brought in, so we could get hold of likes of Heineken and Amstel and stuff, and whiskies and vodkas, and people used to approach us for us to sell them sort of beers and stuff like that. But no, I had a great time in Belize, and the weather. I was there from sort of January to the summer, so I saw like absolutely mental tropical thunderstorms to like some of the most gorgeous sunny days I've ever seen in my life. But it's a special sort of country. How long were you out there for?
I was in Belize for like 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah, it is. It's a funny place. Like, I don't honestly know how I feel about it. I have good memories from it and being there, but also I don't know. It felt quite. It's like nowhere else I've ever been. It's just bizarre in the fact that it's like this English-speaking country of Latin America.
Yeah.
And it's so expensive and stuff, yet everybody's so poor.
Yeah.
It's so like disjointed.
It used to remind me, I know it is a long way from home, but it felt a long way from home. Do you know what I mean? You can go to certain parts of the world now and you don't really feel like you're that far away from home. But I think because culturally and sort of just the way they are is so removed from what we know and what we like sort of, you know, Costa Coffee and 5G and comfort. And they're just, especially where you were staying, rural Belize, there just isn't any of that, is there? it's really going back. But it's an interesting one. We used to help train the Belizean Defence Force. That was the British Army's role. We did jungle warfare training there, but our role was obviously to help train the Belizean Defence Force against the sort of Guatemalans, because they've had a bit of beef over the years. So yeah, the British Army's been in Belize for a long time. Unfortunately, I don't really think there's that much of a presence anymore. And there used to be the helicopter squadrons used to offer like sort of coastal rescue from there and stuff, and do that sort of stuff. So now it was a cracking place. So what was your role when you were there? You said you were doing charity work.
Oh yeah, so I was teaching a charity that looks after manatees in the Caribbean Sea. I was teaching them how to do accounting. It was quite nuts. I got to meet some manatees. They were funny. Yeah.
Do you know what? With all the dangerous stuff that's in the sea, I don't know how the manatee have survived. Like, it is the most. It's like a sea cow, isn't it? It's the most docile, slow, big, large animal I've ever seen, and yet I don't know how it's still here, because, like, the sea is scary.
Yeah,
and like, and manatees just sort of, they just sort of very slowly just move around. And definitely off the coast of Belize, you've got sort of hammerheads and tigers. Big sharks who probably be like, oh, that's a big slow moving thing, I'll just have that. Yeah, I don't know how they're still going, but
I don't know. Well, I think they live in like shallow waters in the coastline, I think.
Yeah.
Where like other animals can't really get to them and stuff.
Well, good.
Because like it was in the bay where like Saturnaja was, that they had a lot of them, and that's why there was a charity there looking after them.
That's good of them, isn't it?
It's good though.
So after Belize, where did you go from there?
Then I was I'd just set off my trip, and I just basically went traveling with like no plan whatsoever. I was like, I'll just see where I end up. So then I went into Guatemala on the bus, which was fun. That was actually pretty good, because it was Guatemalan company, so the bus was like a bit more done up than like the Belizean buses. So I went to Guatemala, which I absolutely loved, and like I just went traveling, and I met people. I stayed in really cool hostels. I stayed in this beautiful hostel, like literally on the top of of a mountain in the jungles of Guatemala, and it had like an infinity pool outside, just like looking over the mountains and to the waterfalls in the distance. It was just absolutely stunning.
Yeah,
I stayed there for like, planned to go there for 2 days, ended up staying for like 7. I met loads of people. Then I travelled around Guatemala with them and went like hiking and loads of really good activities and river rafting and things, and it was really good. I loved Guatemala. And then rather than being sensible and going to the next country, I then flew to Colombia.
Wow.
Because one of my friends, before I decided to sell my house and go travelling, I was meant to be going to Colombia with one of my friends in November. So he just went there anyway and met me. So I flew all the way from Guatemala to Colombia. I met him. That was amazing. I loved Colombia, but it was a bit rushed because it's number one, it's a huge country.
Yeah, huge.
And also he was on holiday, wasn't he? So it was like we didn't have loads and loads of time.
Where in Colombia did you go?
Well, on that time, I went to. We just did like the main things. We went to the coast, to the beach. We did some hiking. We went to Medellin. Sit in the
Medellin. Yeah. Did you go and do the Escobar tour?
No, I didn't. No. What did I do? When we were there in Medellin, we did something. I forget now. It's so long ago.
So
what did we do? Oh, I went on this hike where you went up to his old mansion where he called the cathedral.
Yeah.
And it was basically just a hiking route through some waterfalls that started at the cathedral. And that was it. But I didn't go in the cathedral or anything.
So obviously you've spent a lot of time in sort of Central America, and you've obviously picked up a taste for their food, which I take it is where the Greedy Gringo comes from. But is there a name? Is there a reason why it's called that? I'm sort of thinking that someone.
No, I just kind of thought it was fun.
Yeah, no, it's a great play on words.
It's like I'm greedy and I'm a
gringo.
Yeah. Like I ended up, so as part of my traveling, I ended up spending I flew all around and dotted about, and I ended up spending 17 months in Latin America.
Yeah.
Altogether, because I really enjoyed learning Spanish. I got a job in Colombia, which helped me with my Spanish.
Yeah.
I lived in Colombia for like 7 months. I bought a camper van in Colombia and I drove it to Argentina.
Wow.
And I just was like, on my trip, I was like, I need to figure out what I want to do with my life rather than be an accountant. And so when I was growing up, I originally always wanted to be a chef or something. And I've always loved food, like cooking and eating it. Well, and then
Yeah, nothing wrong with
I
that.
decided, you know what, like maybe I should give something else a go, so do something completely different.
Yeah.
And then I was like, because I've been in South America, I was like, that's a bit of an unknown cuisine in the UK. Like I could easily come home and do a street food truck doing, you know, cool burgers or barbecue meat or pulled pork, but everyone does that now. So I was like, I want to do something different. I've just spent all this time in South America. I sort of speak Spanish now.
Yeah.
I want to be able to share with people like South American culture and food and sort of do it in my own way. And if I can teach people the odd Spanish word now and again, and I don't know, and share with people like this sort of unknown, you know, everybody thinks of South America as being Mexican food, but that's not really the case at all.
No.
And South American food is very, very different from Mexican food.
Could you talk us through? Obviously, we get bombarded now, don't we, with these sort of Mexican restaurants and El Paso and all this sort of stuff, and everyone's on burritos and all that sort of gear.
Yeah.
What is the difference? Is there a subtle difference, or is there a large difference between Central America and South American food, potentially?
Well, I think there's a lot of crossovers. Like they have a lot of plantain and
Right.
there's a lot of corn in the cuisine. So, you know, you get tacos made and fajita. Well, what we would call like fajita wraps, like tortilla wraps. They're always often made of corn flour, aren't they?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of crossover with like the main ingredients. So there's a lot of like lime and chili and coriander, that kind of a thing. But then, like, for example, in South America, like in Colombian food, say, for example, Colombian and Venezuelan food, you would never really see tacos.
Right.
They would be selling tacos as foreign Mexican food.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah. But they have these things called like arepas, which is like, or like in Spanish, it's like arepa, like this, like A-R-E-P-A. It's like a corn, it's made of corn flour and it's a little patty. And then you cut them in half and stuff them a bit like a pita bread.
Sounds good.
So they're like a big thing. I do those as well on my stall. And then you'd have like, say, a lot more pulled meat and like carne mechada, which is like, literally means like pulled beef.
Right.
It ends up being like stringy pulled beef rather than like beef chunks. Like, you know, if you had like fajitas in Mexico. It'd be more like strips of beef. Whereas in South America, there's more like pulled beef and stuff.
Oh, cool.
Chorizo sausage. But chorizo in South America is like an uncooked, uncured sausage. Like, not the dry chorizo that we know, which is Spanish chorizo. Like in South America, chorizo is just basically a spicy sausage. So it's like the texture and size and thickness of a Cumberland sausage, but with like red wine, paprika, and garlic in it.
Wow.
And you need to cook it because it's raw. It's not like the cured one that we get.
Yeah.
It's really good though.
I'm with you. Obviously, at the moment, vegetarian, vegan, meat-free, dairy-free, all of these things at the moment are seen to be exploding. So, have you adapted dishes to suit this new? I don't want to say fad, but it just seems to me like it is literally in the last 12 months. It's just really, really exploded.
Yeah.
So obviously, people in your industries, you have to adapt quickly, don't you? So you know you don't want to lose a sale just because you've got some sort of, I don't know, meat-based or dairy-based product in your food, and then someone will be like, "Oh, I can't eat it," so they walk away. But how do you adapt it? And does the culture out there? What would you say? Is it more sort of leaning towards eating vegetarian fruit and vegetables, or is it a good mix? All meats.
Yeah, like in South America, it's like you hear so many stories of like vegetarians that are traveling who are like, "Can I have the?" You know, they'll be like, "Can I have the chicken meal without the chicken?" sort of thing.
Wow.
For example, like a very typical lunch in a lot of South American countries might be like a piece of meat, some salad or vegetables, and then rice or potatoes.
Yeah.
And it normally be called like menu del dia, which is like means menu of the day. And you say like, you just say, please, can I have the menu of the day? And it's like a set thing, and it'll be like £2 or something. You normally get soup with it and a juice. But people will, like, vegetarians will be out there and be like, please, can I have the menu del dia without the chicken and just a bit more salad? And they just don't understand. Like, they can't process that in their head.
It's no good being woke in South America, then, is it? Like, it's no good. It's just not...
Like, no. It's absolutely crazy. Like, there's like meat in everything. Like, you do get vegetarian things, but you know, it's just like part of their psyche is like, you need to have meat for it to be a meal. Yeah. So, like, I have considered, it did go through my mind initially when I was setting up the Greedy Gringo, just to go completely vegan with it. Like, I'm not personally vegan. Yeah. But I understand why people are vegan and why people make that choice. Yeah. And I also, you know, I eat a lot of vegan food, not necessarily through any particular like life choice, just because I like to try new things. And like, sometimes I'm like, oh, that looks like a cool restaurant. Oh, it's vegan. Well, I'm not going to be put off by that. I'll still try things out and just try new things. Like, I would like people to try new things with coming to my stall. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I decided in the end not to do it fully vegan, because I think it's difficult really to get across like South American cuisine when it's vegan. Like, when it wouldn't, not going to be very authentic. Yeah, it's not culturally effective, is it? If that's not the way they go, then it's fair enough. You know what I mean? It's like opening an Eskimo restaurant and not selling whale or seal. Do you know what I mean? Like, exactly. It's just not going to happen, is it? No, because that's what it is. Do you know, sort of, with what you're doing and the style that you're doing now, if you'd have gone back, say, probably the early 2000s and 90s, you'd go to a fair, a festival, and it's the same thing: burgers and hot dogs, chips, burgers and hot dogs, candy floss. I'm seeing now more of like a diverse range. Do you see that as well? Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I think that's a good thing, though, isn't it?
Absolutely,
it's like more interesting. Like, people are getting, like, going back to the vegan thing that you mentioned. Actually, yesterday I did Grub in Manchester, which is this big street food event called, called Grub. Grub, on every single
Shout out to Grub.
It's really, really good. Like, I totally recommend anyone to go. Yeah. But, every Sunday, if you trade there on a Sunday, your menu has to be 100% vegan. That's like their thing. So Sunday, you cannot buy or sell anything that's not vegan. So I had to do a fully vegan menu yesterday. And, you know, that's an example of, like, a lot of people I noticed yesterday were coming. They're not even vegan. They're just coming because it's something different to try, and they want to come and see what foods like and see. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And people were a lot more adventurous yesterday. Like, Friday and Saturday when I was there, yes, I sold out on every single day, which is great news. But also, everything, you know, everybody was like, chips, chips, chips. We want fries. We want loaded fries. We want loaded fries. Like, that was so popular. On Sunday, they're like other items, like the sides on the menu, which are a lot more authentic, like plantain-based sort of sides that are doing things, were so much more popular on the vegan day, because people are in the mindset of like
trying new things.
Yeah, trying new things, and it was such an obvious difference, and I think that's a good thing, because, you know, it's great that nowadays you go to a festival or a fair or like a market, and there's things on offer, and everything's a lot more. You know, things have been elevated a lot more. Like, things are, you're choosing from things which are of really good quality, and people are, you know, like, yes, things are getting more expensive, but, you know, as a general rule, people have more money. So fair enough, maybe way back when you could buy a burger for £3, and probably still can now, but, like, you know, these days you might be paying £7 or £8 for a burger, but it's going to be a memorable burger. You're going to remember it. You're going to enjoy it. It's not just going to be any old burger that you could have cooked yourself at home.
Yeah, no.
You know, like,
you're right, and sort of, if you're going down that road, there's like a lot of places where I've seen where, you know, they're doing like a certain sort of style of burger, like an Angus, but then you also get the history of the cow, and like you're getting the full story. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the guy saying this is 100% Angus, and this is the farmer, and this is how he raises his cattle, blah blah blah, and you know, it's much more of a thing now. And I don't think it's a bad thing that food's costing more money, because for one, I think we all can overeat. And maybe we all consume a little bit too much. And maybe, and maybe if things were a little bit more pricey, you know, that would sort of reduce. One thing I talked about with Elliot's coffee van is, where are you on the recyclables? Because this is a big thing as well now. Are you sort of going down that road as well? Like, talk to us about where you're at with that.
Yeah, this is a big thing for me as well. And from the word go, like, I was like, definitely going to have biodegradable, recyclable, and recycled packaging. So like, that's what I always use. I try to avoid using single-use plastic well, I don't use it in any of my packaging.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you know, you buy products that, you know, for example, the other day I ordered wooden forks, right?
Yeah.
So biodegradable, recycled wooden forks.
Yeah.
But then they come 100 in a pack, and there's 100 in a plastic bag.
Yeah.
You know, I can't avoid that because I'm ordering online 1,000 forks to be delivered, and that's how they deliver them, and I don't know that's how they're going to be delivered. But, you know, so I do try and avoid that, and sometimes it's unavoidable, but like, you can work towards making it better. But that's a really big thing for me. Like, I can't deal with climate change deniers, because I have been around the world. Like, I've not only just been to South America on this trip that I've just come back from, but I've also been like traveling around Southeast Asia, North America, Canada. And I've been fortunate enough to go to some of the most beautiful beaches in the world in like Southeast Asia and in the Caribbean and stuff. And like, there's plastic everywhere. Like, it's insane.
Yeah.
Like, go to an island, fair enough, and there's loads of tourism, and the hotel pay people to pick up the litter from the beach that you're staying in, and you don't see the plastic because there's somebody there paid to pick it up. But then if you go and hire a boat and you go to that tropical island out in the middle of the sea that you can see, and you go out there where there's no staff there to pick up that litter, it's mental. Like, the islands are covered in. There's like one island I went to, there was a TV in the middle of a rainforest.
Wow.
It had just obviously been flooded from the like loads of things, and it's totally true, and it's like, it is a thing. And even if climate change isn't a thing, which I do not agree with, I do think it is a thing. Even if it's not a thing, like, would you like someone to just come and empty a load of plastic shit onto your front garden? It's like, no. It's just like, we need to get rid of all this plastic because it's horrible.
Yeah, do you know what? And every single person, and hats off to you and to Elliot's. You know, you're small time retailers, but you're making an active effort to reduce your waste. But you've got larger, you know, much bigger retailers. Pizza boxes, I think, are the scourge of the world. They just don't degrade. And I think these bigger companies should make bigger steps to getting rid of plastics. But as well, individuals should make a stance. And I'll sort of go back to the coffee thing. I used to go to sort of, you know, Costa and Starbucks, and I used to get like a takeaway cup. And then I was doing like 5 a week, and I thought, well, do you know what I mean? That's 20 a month. Why don't I just buy a cup? And then I'm dropping 20 a month. And if everyone did that, but you're right, what you said is, you know, you do the big shop and you break down all your packaging and you're left with an absolute bomb. And you think, it's so excessive.
It's awful. Like, I don't understand, like, why is a cabbage wrapped in plastic in a suitcase?
Yeah.
Because it's got like its own leaves. Like, the leaves, just take the leaves off. That's like its own packaging. But I was really pleased the other day. I went into Morrison's last week and I read online. I did used to work for Morrison's head office, so I'm a bit of a like.
Yeah, shout out to Morrison's.
I love Morrison's, but like. I read online that they were trialing in some stores removing like packaging from things, so vegetables will go back to being fully loose. So you wouldn't be able to buy like a bag of carrots. You would just get carrots loose and you take as many as you want. I was like, that's amazing. So I went into the Kendall store like last week, and it's obvious that I think they must be trialing it. That must be one of the trial stores, because a lot of the vegetable is like out and open. They do still have some things in packaging, but it's not like before. It's like, but it just looks so nice as well. Like, visually, like, you can see what you're buying. It's like right there. it looks really colourful because like fruit and veg is colourful. Like it's just a nice thing to look at. It's so nice. I was really pleased.
No. Again, it's great, and as well, sort of with milk, whatever sort of milk you consume, dairy, non-dairy, whatever it is, cartons of milk. Why aren't they just in sort of big vats and you just wash out your reusable carton? You just bring your you take your bags to the shops now. Why don't you say, right, we've got to get milk. I've got to take my carton. There straight away. There's a hell of a lot of plastic just reduced straight away. What's the big thing? Oh, well, it's hygiene. Well, I don't agree with that. I think we've gone a little bit too far with all of this. What's more important is that we sustain and look after the planet, the one planet that we've got, until we sort of go Star Trek and we colonize another 25 planets. We need to start taking better care of the one we've got.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Even
because
it's just like, oh God, yeah, it stresses me out.
Yeah, well,
even if like all the plastic in the world wasn't affecting animals and wildlife that are eating it and killing it, and it's getting into people's stream and all this, and when you eat it, if that wasn't happening, just stop using so much plastic because it just looks horrible. Even if the only impact was the visual impact of finding plastic all over beaches, that's surely enough.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So how long have you been in business then as a Greedy Gringo, and sort of have you got a is it a van you've converted, or is it a store like you pull with a van? I couldn't work it out from the photo.
I'm just starting out with a gazebo and sort of going to events with the gazebo just because it's sort of cheaper.
Yeah.
In the terms of setting up and seeing if this is what I want to do. I might end up going back and being an accountant. Who knows? I might realise I loved it. So yeah, I've been going for I came back from my travels. I came back to the UK December the 23rd. I just rocked up at my parents' house, which was nice. As a surprise. So I came back then, and then I started getting it going. So I've sort of been working to keep the money coming in, and then setting this up on the side. And then now I'm starting to go part-time with work and focus on this now because it's taking off, and I've got a booking every weekend now until October, so that's great.
Brilliant.
So it is going well. People have received it well. I think people seem to have had a lot of help from. I need to acknowledge, my friends and my family around me have been so supportive and helping me, giving me support. Graphic designer friends helping me to design my logo and design. And I think that's a good thing because considering my business is so young, I like to think it has quite a good sort of branding and it looks very together. And I think that I would say from your sort of social media, and I've only seen what you're doing on Instagram, I think it looks brilliant. I think your logo is brilliant. It's colourful. It draws you in. You've got the right sort of message on there, and I'm already sort of thinking in my own mind, I wouldn't mind trying the food. Do you know what I mean? I genuinely wouldn't. You give that image. On social media, how would you find it? Have you had to learn social media? Are you fairly comfortable with it? I did a blog whilst I was traveling, sort of
cool,
writing about places I've been, writing about my experiences whilst I was traveling, just something to do really.
Yeah.
And I had an Instagram with that, so I'm quite good with Instagram. I'm not very good at increasing followers, but I sort of enjoy taking pictures, making things look nice. What's the word? I think what do you call it when somebody organises a library? What's that called?
OCDC.
No, yeah, that as well. So what's the word?
No, I know what you're saying, when they take certain photos and it builds a bigger picture.
Yeah, and it's what's the word? I can't remember, but it's Instagram organising or whatever, thinking about, is it collating? I don't know anyway.
Oh, all right, a collage. Is the word collage?
No, I'm talking crap now. So, but I like thinking about the overall picture of how things look, pulling it together, what the overall image is like, how the next post goes with the last post, doing a story, cool. Engaging. I do enjoy doing that, but then I'm not very good with Twitter, and I'm all right with Facebook. So,
I've just found a new platform this weekend, called TikTok, and that's fantastic. That really is fantastic, and I think for people who have visual businesses who are telling stories, TikTok's definitely one to get hold of now early. And it lets you post onto Facebook and Instagram from TikTok as well. So you can start to save time by thinking, I'm going to have to do 3 posts. You can do the 1 post and put it across all platforms. Yeah, it's just a really good platform, really good. Some of sort of the big, I'd say influencers, I don't know if that's the right word, but the likes of Gary Vee, he's been talking about it recently, saying it is the next platform. Do you know what I mean? It is that one that's coming. Yeah. And he said it's gonna take the place of either Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. One of those 3 are going to pay because of the strength of what TikTok is. So it's definitely worth checking out. You'll have a lot of fun with it. We're absolutely smashing through this, mate. So it's a testament to the stories that we've got. So we're going to sort of move on to the sort of close down.
Good, yeah.
To part of the show that called the 5 Whats.
Oh God.
Here we go. So the first what is, what's the greatest piece of advice you've been given?
So the greatest piece of advice I've ever been given, I think, which I always go back to, is actually wasn't even, I don't even think this person would think that they were even giving me advice. But it was like when I was sat at my desk, one of my colleagues at Morrison's head office, and I was sort of, like we were good friends and colleagues and that, and we went to get a coffee, and I was just telling her I just don't know what to do with life or whatever. What do I want to do? What do I want to be? Do I want to do this for the rest of my life? And she just said to me, she was like, ultimately, nobody's going to fix this apart from you. Like, you are the only person that has it. You are the only person that's responsible for and has the control and the ability to change anything in your life.
Yeah.
And that really stuck with me. And I know it's a really simple and obvious thing, but it's so true.
Yeah.
And then it was that day that I rang the estate agent and was like, right, you know what? I want to quit my job and go traveling and do something for myself and figure out what I want to do.
Yeah.
So instead of talking about doing it like everybody else, I'm going to do it. I am the only person that can make that decision.
Yeah.
I really stuck with what she said, and yeah.
Fair play to her. No, it's that's good.
So thank you, Steph.
Thanks, Steph. Steph, well done, dropping the truth bomb.
Yeah.
Second one, what's on your bucket list? Is there anything left?
My bucket list, something that is a bit of a life bucket list for me, is why I'm setting up the Greedy Gringo, is because I want to get into a position where I'm in the UK sort of maybe March to December time, doing events, summer festivals, that kind of thing, Christmas markets, those sorts of things. And then every year, January, February, when I imagine that street food scene dies down a bit because no one's got any money, that I'll get to go traveling every single year. That's my life goal dream, where I want my life to be, is that I can go traveling every year for a couple of months.
Brilliant.
So that's kind of a life bucket list. Also, one other thing that I really want to do is I want to buy a Land Rover Defender and drive across Africa.
Wow. Yeah.
There we go.
And then you can incorporate African food into your into your menu.
I'll add it in.
That's a proper adventure, that, mate. Straight across, bosh. Yeah, that's a class one. This will be an interesting one. What's been your toughest day?
Toughest day? I honestly don't know. I know that this is a really bad answer because...
Hey, sometimes people haven't had it yet. Do you know what I mean? Some people haven't had it.
I feel like I've had lots of tough days.
Yeah.
I wouldn't honestly be able to remember what my toughest day was.
That means if that's the case, then you haven't had it yet. That's why.
I don't think so.
I had a guy on who said about this and then sort of said he's had his toughest day, and it was like, everyone will have tough days, but when you have that day, that'll be the day that is the one that you sort of mark in your calendar and go, if I can get past that day, then I can, any other day is not going to be, you know what I mean? That's the day. So,
yeah.
No, if you haven't had it yet, you haven't had it yet.
No.
Same with this one. What's been your happiest day?
Happiest day, I would say, would be... don't know really. Happiest. I've got lots of happy days. My happiest day, I think, is when I went, like, yeah, I would say it's probably like the day that I went to the airport to fly and go traveling.
The ultimate adventure.
Like, yeah, because it was like exactly that, yeah.
Yeah,
it was
a really total unknown.
Me, you know, to make this decision to give up this career, which is
corporate money and all that,
career,
safe,
like,
yeah.
well, you know, well paid, blah 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 blah. Like, it was a very big deal for me to do this, to sell my house, to quit everything, to start again. And it wasn't easy, you know, like selling the house, was problems with that, with surveys, and I've handed my notice in at work, blah 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 blah. And there was all this pressure looming, and I was like, is this the right decision I've made? You know, should I have really done this? Like, am I just being reckless? You know, there was people that supported me on it. There was other people. I actually even lost some friends over it who just thought I was like running away from life and stuff.
Well, that's
so stopped being my friend, which I found very bizarre.
Yeah, that's you'll always get that.
But yeah, I think my happiest day, because it was like, this is it now. Like, I'm doing what I want to do, and I need to do this. And I've boxed everything off. I've sold my house. I've got the money behind me. I've bought to rent it out. Blah 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 blah. Like, and that was a really important day for me. So that's probably my happiest day.
Fair play. No, and you know, fair play for having the courage to make that big decision. And there's a lot of people out there who wish they'd done something. If I could only do it again, I'd do this. Well, you still can do it. You're just afraid to do it.
Yeah, exactly. That's I would say that would be my best advice I would give anyone.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Stop talking about doing it. Just do it.
Just do it. The fifth and final, what's next, either for yourself or as a business, or maybe it's both?
So I'm going to keep going with doing the, you know, mobile catering, going to events and that kind of thing. But I think ultimately, I would like to sort of create a brand out of the Greedy Gringo, take it into like a little. There's a lot that needs to be done to get there, but I'm already learning a lot about it. I'm already refining things, refining menu items, refining my branding. And I want to get to a point where, like, I've got maybe a cool little South American themed, like, restaurant vibe thing, you know, somewhere very informal, not with a lot of seats. People come in and, you know, like, can taste South American food, and it's like South American music and sort of that kind of thing.
Yeah, I can't think of it, but there's definitely a place in Leeds, and I've been once, and it was in like an arcade, and it was a Colombian restaurant, and it was near one of the theatres, and for the life of me, I can't remember what it was called, but I remember it would being sort of exceptional food. Yeah, sorry, I can't remember its name, but
yeah, I know what you mean. One of my friends has been whilst I was away travelling. I've never been, no, I used to live in Leeds, but one of my friends went there.
No, perfect. Look, it's been absolutely fantastic to have you on. Ladies and gentlemen, the Greedy Gringo, sort of an insight into just making changes and being bold and being brave and seeing where it's going to go. And if you've got a dream, then chase it and see where it leads you. You know, don't be afraid. There's a lot of people out there who've had, I've got a good job or a steady job, or, you know, just going through the motions. But I think, you know, you just have to don't be ants. That's what you said earlier on in the show. Don't be ants. You know, find your own way. Kyle, where can people find you on social? Where can people find you? And what's your next event you're going to?
Yeah, but I'll definitely follow up on that. Like, don't be an ant. Just do what you do. If you want to do something in life, do it. Don't sit around saying you want to do something. Just get up and do it today. Like, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month.
Yeah.
On social media, you can find at the Greedy Gringo.
Yeah.
Facebook, the Greedy Gringo, and then Twitter, I think it's just called Greedy Gringo, not the Greedy Gringo.
Right,
I'm on there. People can come. I try and do a story every day of like how things are going, and like,
cool.
Story today, I've got the washing up to do from the weekend, so that's fun.
Nice.
But yeah, it's been really good. Thank you for having me on. It's been
brilliant. And what's your next event, or where can people actually come and taste the food next week, or this?
So this week I'm in Stockport at Vine, which is like a cool sort of trendy bar that does wine and beer.
Awesome.
And then the middle of September. Sorry, I should have had the date.
No, it's all right. Don't worry about it.
Middle of September. I'm at the Factory Tap in Kendal for 2 days. So that's a good one. That's always a great event there. They have lots of street food there. It's really well hyped up. There's always lots.
Yeah, that's
really
great.
Good beer and stuff. So that I would highly recommend people come there. It's a really nice place.
No, it's brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been the Greedy Gringo. I'll definitely be trying it, and everyone else should definitely try it. And that's another Eagle podcast done and done. Another fantastic guest who's given up the time to come and tell us a little bit of the story. Follow them, catch them on Insta, Facey, and all the other places where they can be found. Coming up on a few shows' time, I've got a guy coming on who's going to talk about SEO, search engine optimization, and why your website should drive your business, not your social media. Dead looking forward to that one because it's a bit of an interesting topic. So keep an eye out for that one. Kyle, Greedy Gringo, thanks very much for coming on. I shall catch you later on.
Thank you. Cheers.
Adios.